All right. So for this growth talk episode, it's going to be good because we're going to get to chat about one of our feels like a little kid that we got.
Yeah, man.
Tiiki.
My first child.
Tiiki Tribe. Chat about, and we're going to be completely just transparent and just have a conversation about, I think the main focus, what mistakes were made with Tiiki and kind of where we're going to be heading in the future and how these mistakes have informed us to be better. Mistakes, not something that we're like, these mistakes happened, this didn't go well, that's kick to the curb. No.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should probably start from the start. So Tiiki Tribe was our first ever business when we started. How old when we started? 20 or 19? Yeah, we were 19 and 20 when we started our first business.
19, 20, maybe even a little bit younger. I think we're younger. Yeah. I think we're maybe 18, 19.
Yeah, 18, 19, started our first business, which is pretty crazy. So Tiiki Tribe started off as a mobile food store, like a pop-up acai store that we'd set up at BJJ, MMA, food markets, different events, surf events, and then it turned into Tiiki Tribe Meals, which was a meal prep delivery service. But I guess it started really is when we were in New York for the first time and LA competing at the World Championships, both fresh white belts, 3 months training in, 6 months training in, and we're competing at the World Championships. And we noticed that in LA, they have this massive, it's a massive stadium, and they've got this all sorts of different stalls for apparel, gis, whatever. And then they have this big acai thing, and acai bowls are massive in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu culture. And we seen the store and it was pumping. And it was really well done. It was like a cafe inside, really. But it was all a pop-up sort of store, like a marquee style. And then we're like, man, this is cool. And it was the first time we're trying acai and we loved it. And then we come back to Melbourne and they had one of the Vic, like at MSAC. What was the comp?
It was a jiu-jitsu tournament somewhere.
Yeah.
And they had the stall that they set up was very simply set up. And we noticed a lot of things there that we said, man, we could maybe do this in a much better way.
Yeah.
So we sat down, had a chat, and from there it was just all systems go. So from the moment we sat down and had a chat about it, that same day, made an email, jungleboys@gmail.com. Made a little email signature, thought we were professional. And then we just started sending out emails straight out the gate, started sending out emails to different jiu-jitsu tournaments, different places all around Victoria, saying we have a stall and we make acai bowls. We want to come to your stall and run this and run our stall there at your events. And we got a reply back from Ben Hodgkinson, who works with Grappling Industries, and he said, "Yep, we've got an event coming up in about 30 days. Would you be able to make it down there? Coburg Basketball Stadium, Grappling Industries." We said, "Yep," and then we looked at each other. We're like, all right, so we don't have a stall. We don't even know where to get acai from. We don't know how to make it. We don't have any licensing, any registration. We've got zero. We just have energy and passion. And then it was a race to get that shit happening. It was just, every day we were just on the phone. I'd be at work, he'd be at work, and we'd be like, all right, what do we need? Let's search up suppliers. And we just went through that whole chaotic period of time, which is unique to us in terms of we will just set things up straight away and go and learn as we go. Same with this podcast. And the good thing is that we got all our shit together, built a shitty little stall, very flimsy, by hand. And the way we built the store, went to our coach, Troy, who we've had on the podcast, because he's very handy. He had a construction business. So he just wrote on a Post-it note, get some MDF, get some glue, get some screws. And we just went with that Post-it note to Bunnings, got what we needed, built a shitty stall, hired a ute, brought it to the event, came late, number one. Number two, we set off the fire alarm. Number three, we ran out of some stock. We didn't even have a freezer. We brought an esky with ice, and that was melting all over the basketball court. It was a shambles.
I remember when we
Well,
got our first order, like our first customer came at that stall, and like it was a mess from the start. And then the minute they paid, we didn't have FPOS or anything. They just paid cash. I'm pretty sure. We're like, oh, we don't have any change. Just wait around for to get some change. And then we looked at each other like, how do we make the bowl? And we're like, fuck,
no,
I don't know. I never made one before.
no, the bowl we had known how to make. I did like a trial run. It was a coconut. The guy asked for a coconut because we decided to sell coconuts at the stall too, which turned out to be a hit. The thing is, you should probably search up how to open up coconuts before you start selling them. So the guy asks for a coconut. We go, sick, take the money. Then we're like, how do we open this? And that's how we learned. We just went on YouTube then, and I saw someone hatcheting it in with a corner of a knife, flipping it, shaving it. We did that. So it was.
Yeah. So that first one was a
But
mess.
we have to note that we did well. We did well that day, which was surprising, and it was also very encouraging.
That is true. Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, it was a mess to set up. It was a race to even get the supplier source, to set up our licensing, to get the permits through, to get the stall, to get the supplier, get everything. And then when we get there, we didn't know how to do it. So we YouTube a few things. And then it was like, luckily my girlfriend and her sisters came. So they helped us set up a little, what do you call it? Like a production line?
A little construction, yeah, a little assembly line.
So
They
like,
came
this
to
is
help.
where,
They came to watch.
yeah, they came to watch. We're like, come watch our business. And then next minute, I'm like, you need to help us. We don't know what we're doing. So they made a production line where one person, which is common sense, really, one person would be at the checkout, taking the money and obviously writing down the orders, pass it through the back. Someone's prepping the bowls, someone's making the bowls and putting the topping, and then someone's serving. So simple, but we didn't think about that. So then when we got that down, we started writing it down. I'm like, all right, cool, this is how it'll be. Anyway, we did the event. We paid the rent for it. I think we ended up breaking even, maybe. But that was when that day when we got back to yours was the first time I actually realized the difference between revenue and profit. Because I think we made maybe $1,000 in revenue. I'm like, $1,000 for one day, we killed it. And then we're like, hang on, take away the supplies, the rent, the setup of the cost. I'm like, oh shit.
And then we went and got pizza.
And then we got pizza with I think we had $40 profit, and we got pizza
at Palumba's restaurant.
Yeah.
He hooked us up a little bit. Oh, did he? Like, oh, no, he took like a slight discount.
Yeah, and gave us a free guide.
Man, that was fun. But look, after that, we of course sat down, reviewed our performance, and we did this stall after stall, and we got good at this. And we had some events like when we went to Gunnamatta, where there was no bowls sold, maybe 1 or 2 bowls sold. But then we went to some events where we sold out completely, and we learned along the way, and we didn't stop. And we actually we ended up securing a consistent spot at Welcome to Thornbury, a food truck park near Preston. So we made progress over those 1 or 2 years, and then we decided we were going to jump into a bigger industry. We're going to now use what we've learned, and we're going to start and we're going to change Tiiki Tribe from a partnership to a company, and we're going to enter the meal prep industry, which is a gigantic industry with a lot involved, and take it from there.
So, man, that was crazy because we were just 2 young kids running around with our little, I think I ended up getting the van eventually, but we're running around in a Bunnings hired ute, just setting up a little stall, wheeling her around and shit, and making some acai bowls. And then someone from training at Limitless hit me up, and he's like, no, Danny Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, I went to Derrimut gym, like a lifting gym, and they do their own meals. They got their own freezers where they brand their own meals. He's like, you should do meal prep. And I was like, oh, all right, I will. And that was it. I told you that night, I'm like, let's do meal prep. Like, it's sort of a new market that's coming through. I think there was only 1 or 2 major players. U-Foods wasn't even big then, really. And I was like, all right, yeah, we can do that. That's a good little gap in the market. And then I'm like, yeah, we got this sort of MMA niche that's not very tapped, still not very tapped, really. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember we had, I don't know how you did it, but you secured an office, like a work sharing office at RMIT. So we had our own little office, which was pretty sick. Like, you share it with a few other startup companies. And I remember when we were in there and we're in the conference room, and we're just on the phones Like you're in one room, I'm in the other, and we're just calling people thinking we're businessmen, calling up suppliers and shit. And we had to just sit there and Google like,
That's
how do you
interesting.
make meal prep? How do you get suppliers? How do you start a business? How do you register for a company? And we would just call suppliers because we look at frozen meals like Armour Cane and Bird's Eye and whatever. And then we'd call up the supplier. And luckily one of them from, I think it was Armour Cane, the Australian production manager, was like,
From South Australia, this guy.
South Australia, yeah. And he goes, Google this term. And it was private label manufacturing. And we Googled that. No idea what it was. Yeah, contract manufacturing, private label. And it's basically just a private company that manufactures your meals for wholesale price, obviously. And they accept full responsibility and liability of the production quality, but they don't market anything. So like you don't put them on any of your labels. They're private label, right? So
and you work with this company to develop those meals as well.
Yeah. So we've developed everything through a private label manufacturing, Glenroy, I think, or around that area. And
around that area.
Yeah. What did we do first? I think I spent a lot of time on the packaging for some reason. I'll get real antsy about the little shit. I shouldn't do that, which I learned from. But I spent a lot of time trying to work out how we do the packaging because in my mind I wanted it a specific way. And then I remember we just jumped on Fiverr, which is just a little freelancing business a platform where you just pay like $5 or something and you get someone from bloody India to make you up a little marketing cardboard box. Paid them, they got it through to us, went back and forth to perfect how we wanted it. Cool, done that. Then we found a supplier in, I don't know where it was, China or something, that would manufacture them and deliver the packaging. Was that Australia?
So we figured out that we needed the design from Fiverr, and the guy provided us a design and a template, a box template for packaging, which is how it works. And we brought that to people within Victoria, and we went to some of the major providers of packaging that provide packaging to all sorts of companies. We learned a lot about what goes on behind the scenes and the major players. And we visited them, had site visits, but the price point was well out of reach for us. So we got the template that we got from them and the information from those people, and then we went online and ordered the packaging online. I'm not sure where it came from, but we ordered it online. It was cheaper. It just took longer. It took much longer, and we were worried about the quality. And they even wanted us. They wanted to send us 1,000 sleeves, but not folded. So the sleeve is a template, non-folded. So there were issues to work out. We got that happening, and then we moved on to stage 2, which was the meal production. And we spoke and sat down with the company that we decided to work with. This company had worked with many major airlines, many health companies before, and we were happy with them. We spoke to them. We brought to them different recipes that we had decided based on market research would be popular. So we had a vegan option, vegetarian option, and we had two regular high protein options that contained chicken. So that happened. We had to come up with the money for the development stage, and we had to also then come up with the money for whatever other stages that they put you through. So there were a lot of things that they would try to do to get the costs up, especially I think also interacting with us, seeing us at 19, 20, 21, thinking like, what's going on here? I remember drafting up a legal contract myself, second year legal dispute studies, just to get out of paying a certain price.
Yeah, they wanted like
without a contract, you can't. So I go, we have a contract, and we just wrote it up on the spot. And then it was good. We got the meals out, and then it was on to stage 3.
Marketing, yeah. That was so fun when we did the first site visit, and we'd rock up to there and we'd have to get the lab coats on, go at the back, sit down with the owners and the head chef, and we do like a taste testing thing. And I was just loving it. I think I was just on Snapchat the whole time, like, oh, this is shit, we're balling. And then I'm like, man, this is cool that we're doing this. Like they're treating us like professionals, you know what I mean? Because we had
they should.
Cash. We fronted half the cash, and they're like, all right, these guys are serious. Like they pulled up with the money. and they've got a genuine business plan down. So they treated us serious for 19 and 20 years old, which is pretty cool. And I was like, man, we've got to treat ourselves serious now. And like, we're really going into a major industry here. Like, we're playing with some big money especially for how old we were. And like, I remember busting our ass night shift, both of us, just to come up with this cash so that
11 p.m., 7 a.m.,
yeah,
11 p.m. to 7 a.m. type of work, and then going to other work after that. We put in the yards, which no one can escape. What's interesting about the site visit is that having worked in warehouses ourselves and having worn high vis and safety and PPE, we've seen when other people on the other side of the business, the companies conducting the freight, have come through to monitor what's going on. And it was funny because that was now what the position, that was now the position we were in. Although at the same time, we were also still working in the warehouse at different warehouses. So I would look at the people, both of us would look at the employees moving our stock around in the cold storage facilities and whatnot, and on the forklifts. And it was really, really refreshing for us and reinforcing for us to look at that and say, there is no difference at all between that person and ourselves right here. We're doing the same thing. We're going to warehouses and we're working. All that happened is that we decided to bring an idea to life. And that suddenly puts you on the other side, wearing the suit and coming into the facility.
Yeah.
That was cool to know.
True. I'm glad you remembered that. That was one of the biggest pivotal moments for us, because we were both working on that. And seeing that, the first minute that we end up, so we did all that night shift work, fronted the cash, we got the meals down, we transferred to a company, and then we were like, all right, so once the meals got manufactured, they were put on, I think, 4 different pallets, which was sick for us. It was 2,000 meals on 4 pallets, which was crazy to see it come to life. I remember when we first went there, seeing them pull out all our stock, and we're like, fuck, like we did this. Like, we brought an idea to life. It's tangible. It's in our hands. I'm like, fuck, we made this product, from scratch. The whole thing, we did the whole process. And I'm like, this is pivotal. It's so pivotal because you really can do it if you're going to commit to this. You can do anything. You can bring anything to life if you're willing to go through it. And we did that, which was fun.
And it was definitely fun. After that, we got our meals and we moved on to the stage, which was now marketing and selling. And we made so many errors there. And we made, of course, many errors outside of that as well. So we ended up selling a few meals, we had 1 or 2, we made some sales, but definitely not what we needed to make. Yeah. However, we were really happy that we were not in debt. We were not in loan because we had funded all this ourselves. We said that at the start. And it's also interesting to note that when Tiiki Tribe all started, the very day it started, remember, it was a day I got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And we were sitting down and we were talking about Tiiki and what's to come. And we both agreed and said, okay, the main purpose of Tiiki Tribe right now, and this is us 17, 18, the main purpose, 18, 19, sorry, the main purpose is this is going to be our degree in business.
Yeah.
Okay. So the main thing that we want out of this at that stage was experience and knowledge. We said we could go out there and study. Let's just dive in. And at the end of the day, as long as we don't take out a loan and we just front up all the cash ourselves, at the very least, worst case scenario, we're going to end up with a business or, as it turned out, a company, a bunch of experience, and in the same position as many other 20, 21, 22-year-olds. A lot of people are at a certain stage. So it's like we definitely set the right intention at the start. And that helped us, and that has helped us to be in the position we are now, moving forward with Tiiki, taking new directions. But we want to analyze, we want to go over some of the mistakes that we made with Tiiki. So for me, I would say straight off the bat, our nature in terms of straight to market, no hesitating, jump in, dive in, and just go for it is what helped us. But at the same time, a little bit more planning, a little bit more administration, back-end things, the organizational side of things is where we made a lot of where we made a lot of errors.
Yeah, I think that when you first start a business, whatever your product is and your idea is, you really have to have like you got to nail down. For number one, you got to nail the problem that you're solving for your audience, and really be specific about what the problem is. Is your product right for that problem? Is it affordable? Is it reasonably affordable? And who's your target audience? You have to know that. Otherwise, you're shooting in the dark with all your marketing from there on, because it gets real expensive real quick, especially with paid advertising. If you don't know who you're marketing to, you're going to rack up way too many unnecessary costs, like we did. So be specific
Also,
who you're selling to.
big time, and that's a big key in the marketing and whatnot side of things. In the development stage, a key error that we made was underestimating the product type. Now the type of product that you have is massive in this type of field. The product that we had is a perishable product, a food item, and it was a frozen food item. So the fact that it's a frozen food item now means everywhere at each point in the logistical process, we need to find, we need to cater it to that. So that means packaging, delivery, we need to have frozen vans or vans that are refrigerated. We need to have the actual storage. So you see the meals that they come in, the containers need to be able to conduct or retain the keep it frozen. Also, the actual storage facility, you can't have these just stored in a regular facility. It needs to be stored in a cold storage facility. So there were a lot of issues with the product itself that we did that are fine. This is part of having a business and a company, but we didn't account for. Until we accounted for it, but we didn't. It wasn't how it is to us now. Where when we look at the products and the different things that we're going into now, we are analyzing how much will this impact the storage cost? How much will the nature of our product impact the shipping costs? Like the heavier the item, the more you're going to have to pay. So these are things to keep in mind. That, again, so glad that we did that, because now moving on, we have the experience of the marketing, which I would say you have a really good marketing skill set, especially with the books you've read on that .com secrets and whatnot, and creating different funnels. Fantastic. That's going to be so beneficial with where we go next. It was more so, I think, the product type in terms of that. So in terms of the actual business, it would be product. And another issue I would say would be organizational. We're not organized at all. I'm happy to say that we've developed a little bit of that skill set now. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to survive. But at that time, two unorganized adolescents, not keeping track of tax, not keeping track of emails,
not paying invoices on time.
Invoices not on time. So the issues, I feel like if we were to, now that we're going in a different direction, but if we were to jump into that right now with the experience that we have, of course, we would do many, many things differently. However, we gain that experience. How? Going out there and doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I never ever regretted it, especially because we made it very, very clear at the start that this is just a real life business degree that we're going to get, and we're going to earn it ourselves. We're not going to try and just write about it or read about it. We'll do it, and we're going to make a lot of mistakes. Gets to be expensive sometimes. A lot of late nights for sure. A lot of multitasking. A lot of back into, like, going from work, doing a night shift. Then you've got a site meeting in the morning. You haven't slept yet. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But I think,
and at the same time, we were both preparing for fights, studying. So we're trying to train full time.
We won fights as well, which was sick. Like, we've gone through weight cuts, winning fights with our own product. We're using it for our weight cuts. Yeah. Oh man, it's just crazy. I don't know how we did any of that shit, to be honest, but we did.
It's our, so look, whenever in the Play One episode, in the Growth Talk 1, where we were chatting about headwind and tailwinds, and very often your tailwind can also be your headwind. So your tailwind, the wind blowing from behind, pushing you forward, the innate qualities you have that push you forward, can also be the things that give you resistance. So for us, energetic, and we're able to apply our effort to ideas. Okay, we have ideas, and we're not afraid to try and actualize them. So we go straight to it. Temper that with organization, calm. These are reasons why when I conducted my own headwind and tailwind assessment, I quickly identified which things. It was a very interesting exercise, which we've talked about in other podcasts. You can check out podcast Growth Talk 1, and you'll see how it's valuable, because we identify now, okay, I need to use a planner. I need to schedule my weeks. And personally, both of us, we need to meditate in order to retain that calm of mind and that state of mind. And without that, which at that time we're doing none of these things, it was just, imagine running a company without a schedule. Imagine running a company, not a business, but an actual company without a schedule and without monitoring tax, without monitoring finances, and just day by day. So it's no surprise, actually. But at the same time, based on our nature, it helped us get really far within that, just based on the whatever comes up, bang, late, bang, dun, dun, straight to the next thing.
Well, you know what, our biggest strength was definitely that we were not afraid to jump into whatever it was, take the next step. We're really good at actualizing ideas, bringing an idea to life, whatever we had to do that. And but then obviously, because we would do that, we were so high energy, get the next thing, secure this, lock in that, get more of this. And it's like, who's maintaining all of it? And that's where we both sort of, fell apart. So I think that a piece of advice, and definitely something we're going to take into the next business, is that you have to have some sort of, either if you're not good at it, at scheduling things in and making sure the important things are done repeatedly, then you need to find someone that can do those things, and that is their strength. Yes. There's nothing wrong with delegating. If you can't, it's not your strength, delegate to someone else.
A good example of how you need to have both is in observing the other fledgling companies that shared the office with us. Now, not in any brag whatsoever, but there's a wall of fame with all the companies on there. And there were some tech companies, there were all types. However, in the we're still at that office now, so we still have that space now, but in the 2 years where we were in there consistently, not many of those companies ever even launched. True. They stayed in the planning and strategy stage for 2 years, and then never ended up launching, or launched on a very small scale. Whereas you and I went in there, and within a few months, we're up and running and learning on the job. Now, that's not a good way to do it. That's also, the other way is not a good way to do it. It's a mix of both. That's why if you have your tailwind pushing you forward, recognize how it is a headwind, and then maybe bring in that person, like you said, or maybe learn that skill or correct that error. And another thing is a trait that we share is, I guess, tenacity. So we will hold on to something and we'll push for it. You have to be in it long enough to win it. So if you're jumping in and things don't go well, imagine in that first stall that we ran and we're like, wow, what a shambles. Set off the fire alarm, not much net profit, game over. We never would have had such an incredible run of stalls after that. And just like how right now we're going in a certain direction with Tiiki as well, when we get to wherever we get to, this will be a classic phrase that we can say, hey, this is where we were at before. Again, we'll be able to just look back at this episode and hear about it.
So what we'll talk about just quickly, because I mean, there's a few people that are probably listening now that did follow the Tiiki's journey, and I still get questions asking now if we're still making meals or if we're still doing meal plans or whatever. And well, in a nutshell, no, we're not. I mean,
the meals have an expiry date.
The meals have an expiry date, yeah. So obviously they're frozen. They have a longer shelf life. I think it's about a year. Very, very lucky that we got frozen, because we would have been out of stock in a few weeks and made no money. We've got to turn around quick if it's not. But so no, they've got their shelf life's expired. We're not doing that, and we haven't put through a second order. The company's still going. I mean, it's all there still. We can do it. We can do it.
Active?
Still active. It's still a registered company, but it's not something we're pursuing at the moment. I think that it's going to be, we realize this towards the end, is that this is a lot. It's a lot to run a company. And it's a lot you can't do it with just two kids that are also trying to pursue other things with more audacious goals. So
I think it can kind of be done.
Not to the extent that you're going to do it. And especially our ambition level, it's either you do it or you don't. You don't mess around with something like that if you're not serious enough, because otherwise you're not going to do it as well as you think you are, If you're going to do something, you're going to do it right. So we realized that we've got other goals. We're pretty young still, want to pursue fighting, having a few more fights, have our careers, and just sort of learn different things. Because it really, like for me personally, I want to travel, and obviously this whole Corona thing here, so that's not going to happen just yet. But like, I really felt that I needed to go and do that before I stepped into business life, because it consumes you pretty quick. It becomes your whole life very quickly. Yeah. You sort of easily get stuck in the run of things. And Sam obviously wanted to pursue his career of fighting. He's obviously got the talent there and he can do it. So you can't really pursue two audacious goals at the same time. I don't think you'll reach either.
I think I get exactly what you're saying in terms of if you can definitely spread yourself too thin, and having, again, ambition is one headwind, is one tailwind, but the way that can be a headwind is trying to take on too much. However, I feel like in taking on so much, you can learn a lot about yourself in how to be more effective. And I also believe this is something I stand by. Anything any other human has done is possible for me as a baseline. And then there's a bunch of other things that are possible for us that people haven't done. But especially if a human has done something, if a human being has gone out there and created multiple companies and spread himself thin and messed up and then come back and done it and achieved, can be done. So that's why I feel when I hear that it can't be done, it actually, like within me, I feel something tug and go, things can. But what you have to do is learn. If you're stubborn and you stick to it like that, you can of course end up making the same mistakes. What you need to do is exactly as you've said, is like analyze the situation. Doesn't mean cancel and say that's not happening. Like for example, right now we've even been communicating back and forth with product development, product ideas. We're in that phase and looking at different things for Tiiki and whatnot, but it's not something we're sitting down and scheduling meetings for like we are for Player One podcast, because we know at which stage we're at with that. It's like, let the seed remain there, make sure the business is active. You'll see our Instagram will start to be posting a few things to do with the health niche, just content, nothing to do with product. But that's about it, because for the next year or so, there's going to be a lot happening in other areas. So you need to be able to understand that and operate within that. But definitely, I feel can be done. Other humans have done it. Yeah, can be done. Podcast, fight, travel, business.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. But I think it is about prioritizing what you want to get done first, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin, because then you're probably like, I didn't really do any of them that well. Focusing on too many things destroys focus. So that was focus to put on hold.
Focus is key, and you have like this much of it. And if you try and say it's going to go here, like you said, how far in each area are you going to go?
Exactly, yeah.
Because it requires a lot of commitment. It's not a joke to have to try and run a company. It requires a lot of commitment. And yeah.
Hey, do you know, I realized when we were in our peak of shambles, when we were both working night shift, hardly sleep, trying to manufacture our meals, we also still had our first pop-up shop at RMIT, and we're running a shop. Oh, we had a shop for a month because they were setting up an area at RMIT and they were promoting it with new businesses. So we got a free lease for a month where we had a full shop, had its own back cool room and kitchen, had its own cafeteria area. And we're running a shop on no sleep. We've got meetings to go to. Oh my God, bro.
Man, let people maybe, look, we don't, like we've said in other episodes, in I think Growth Talk number 2, where we're chatting about, or maybe that was a different episode, but we're chatting about, damn, that's just left my head, that idea.
It's a lot, man. It's a lot, but man, I don't regret any of it. So it was so good. And you're right, because what our point is, we just wanted to touch on what it was like, our backgrounds of setting up a company at a very young age. But the best thing about it is that you keep all this. This is all up here. It's written down everywhere. The experience is lived and we know it. So like even just setting up this podcast, for example, we did a lot of the same sort of thing. Because I mean, we played around this for a while at the Tiiki office, actually, setting up a few little episodes for a trial. And we did the same sort of thing. We were like, well, we're doing this anyway. We have these conversations anyway. Let's just record them, put them out there. And then now it's at the point, I think we're really starting to gain traction at the moment.
Yeah.
Good guests lined up and we've already had some good guests on. So it's like, all right, we can see how this works now. It took us a few, it was maybe 13 episodes, but we're like, yep, all right, we know how to do it now. We know how to make it better. We know how to do this, but you have to, I don't think it's always necessary to get it perfect on paper with a perfect go-to market strategy. And then I feel like sometimes you've got to just jump in and just try it and see what happens and see where you're going to go, you know?
Done is better than perfect. Remember when we heard that and it resonated with us, and it's true. And it's good that we know that we learned so much about ourselves and the business. And it's like this, for example, 23, 24, let's say 30, okay? Wherever we're at that stage, that's exciting to me. But a big part of that isn't just because at 30 you're a genius and you've got everything worked out. It's because you've gone through and you've experimented. And if you don't go out and experiment and put yourself out there, and we never tried to do anything to do with Tiiki, it'd be completely different. You need to do these things as part of the process. You got to embrace it. You got to actually enjoy it. You got to actually look forward to it, and you have to be patient. And you have to understand the process and how it works. And you can understand it by listening to people who have been in the process and are keen to pass on their knowledge. And they all say exactly how it works. You have to jump in. You have to try. You have to make mistakes, because that's how you that's how you learn, and that's how you apply, and then you grow and you continue to try. This is another reason why we both refuse to dissolve the company, throw it to the side and move on. The reason we've kept it alive, because looking at the other people at the top who've done it, you see what they've said. I had this company for 3 years. It failed. 7 years later, 6 years later, this is where it's at. I had this here. And we also look at the people that say, I had this company, failed, realized the wrong industry, had to close it, move on. This is the one that grew. All the information is out there. I just remembered what I was going to say when we talked about the cafe and the kind of hard yards that we put in. We're not sticking on the topic of hard yards because, like we've said in the past, the hard work is stock standard. It's not worth even talking about, like the hard work is stock standard. You don't get nowhere. You're not going to achieve or go anywhere without that insane, disgusting hard work. But to give people a perspective of it, like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. we're working in a warehouse overnight. So that fucks with your system already and messes with your sleep schedule. And then we go from there to other types of work, to training. And then it's like still trying to actually run the company, grow the company, studying at the same time. Not easy stuff. And it's not that it's a special thing to do, like you're special that you're doing it. It's just a prerequisite. It's just a prerequisite. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also like, it's never even, you speak to, and you hear from a lot of guys, and we've spoken to a lot of guys with very successful companies as well. And it's like, it's not, you don't even want everything to go right from the start, because then you have no good stories to tell when it's successful.
No good story to tell. And it's not real experience either, because I was listening to the book that you recommended, Mastery, and I got it on Audible, and I'm just going through the chapter of Henry Ford about how he failed a few times, 3 times, and people go, he's done now, he's gone bust. And then in the analysis of the chapter, the author says a massive part of the mastery process is you need to fail, you need to make the mistakes. Some people are even averse to the word failure, but that is what it is. You need to do these things, and you don't want things to go 100% right from day one, because you will refuse to acknowledge it as luck, and you won't have the information that you need to continue further down the track. How many businesses would go super well from the get-go, never encountered any difficulty or hardship and known how to deal with it and whatnot, and then when that happens, it can fall to pieces.
Exactly. Yeah.
I never want things to go well from day one.
Yeah.
No.
It makes it life interesting anyway, and which is what I've always wanted from the start. It's a very interesting life and a very interesting story to tell.
Gameplay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all about this big gameplay, you know. But well, yeah. And at the same time, I mean, a good thing to reflect on about our journey from starting a company at a young age, and is where we take it from there. Because I mean, I never wanted to go into food. I didn't even like the idea of food in the first place. But it just sort of happened, and it came across our lap, and it was a good opportunity, and it was a good learning experience. And to this day, I still think we entered one of the hardest niches and markets and product lines that we could have. And it made it so much better, so much better.
Yeah. Because we've learned so much, we can't even put it into words. Like, anyone with a company will know exactly kind of what we're saying. And anyone that's been through something similar. There's so many things, small details from logistics through to planning to the organization that are key. You need to know. And how did we get to know it? Going through it.
Yeah. But in saying that, it's like, all right, well, like just wait for the next product. Wait for the next product-based business, because this is the podcast is really just a journal, and it's just for us to grow and learn and have guests on, and it's just a lot of fun for us. So we're never going to push.
Not super hard.
Exactly. It's not even hard to do, really. You sit down once a week and you talk to someone, have an interesting conversation. It's not a hard thing to
chat anyway.
Exactly, yeah. So this is great, and it's fun, and it's always going to be around for as long as we can see it. But the next product-based or service-based business that we launch, you can expect a lot of positive changes. You can expect it to run smoother. For one, I'm not going back into food specifically. It'll be something that we can do internationally from the start. International shipping all around. It has to be key.
I think if we talk now about, I guess, where we're at now. So actually on Asana, which is a project management software. So we went out there and learned the skill of project management by watching a few different YouTube videos and going through a few online courses. And the reason why, identified one of the flaws in the past was lack of organization, lack of strategy, lack of planning. And one of those key skills is project management. And when you go through these online YouTube resources, I'll put some links up, you learn a lot. And on that Asana app, step one was analyze and review Tiiki, which is what we've done through this conversation, but we also did in our own analysis of it. And then looking at the next steps. I think for sure staying within that health niche, but the product itself is going to be one that fits well within what we need. It's going to be easy to transport. Like Josh said, it's a much smoother run, like really different.
Yeah. I remember a lot that we were talking about. I've always felt this, and I've got a whole notes section about, I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things about me that I get like obsessed with, good business structures. If I see, I don't know, it's like a weird sort of fetish I have. If I see a structure of a business run, then I'm like, that's so unique or so smart. I have to write it down. I've got this whole notes section that I'll have to get out one day. But I remember from the start, you really liked the idea of having a cafe, and I was always very hesitant. And now this sort of reminds me why, especially this whole Corona thing going on. Man, like look at how brick and mortar stores are suffering. I don't say that they're unnecessary. I think that they definitely are, depending on the product or service. But I think it's a bigger risk if you're going to make a brick and mortar store, because you either own the building, which you've got countless amount of responsibilities for that, or you're paying a lot of lease for that. And the rent is never cheap for a big industrial building. And then it's just so many upfront costs, because not only that, for the rent of the building and the liabilities that you have, you always have to keep your brick and mortar store stocked, which is a lot of money, because you're always sort of behind the eight ball doing that. And people are going to blow up about this in different ways. This is just my personal opinion. If you have a brick and mortar store, let's say that you sell bikes. You sell bikes. Bikes aren't cheap. It's a lot of money, right? Let's say your bikes average $1,200 each, and you have to have that stocked. I mean, that's your you go to any store, you want a window shop, you want to see what's on there. So you have to pay for all that. Wholesale, yes, but you're still, let's say each of them cost $600 and you've got 200 bikes in your store. I'm not going to do the math, I'm pretty sure of that, but that's a lot of money that you fronted out and you have to keep it fully stocked always. I think that I don't like that idea. I think it's too much risk, especially in this day and age when you can make a lot of money online. I think that that's definitely going to be a staple for me. I mean, maybe later on I wouldn't mind some sort of shop, or if I start playing around with investing, and yeah, maybe, but online presence I think is huge. It's never been a better time to do it, because I mean, not only that, but you can make products. Look this up, right? Look at the biggest, your biggest net profit types of products. The biggest one you'll get is information and books. So you can get ebooks, you can get little Word documents or whatever, right? You can just fill it up. Let's say I sell meal plans and I only have to write it down once, and I sell 1,000 of them. Where's my cost? Where's my cost? I didn't make any cost. Let's say I make a bit of a platform with this brand that I'm doing anyway, and I release an ebook on something. That's free for me to do. And then every single bit of profit I get from that is 100%, 100% ROI. And I can do this internationally for free. That's so much better than having a full store. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think within, I guess, just our generation, we're more inclined to head towards online business and marketing. But I also see the value in brick and mortar stores, and they'll be around forever. There'll always be a brick and mortar. But I think the online industry is going to, of course, grow, and it's already there. It's already taken over. But brick and mortar will stick around because it's one of those things. People even use brick and mortar to describe sturdy, whatnot. But this year has shown people that, hey, how sturdy is it really? And of course, this is a completely unforeseen situation. However, it's a good reminder to see that these stores are not as flexible as you might have thought, although some are adapting really well. What I like about brick and mortar stores is just within me, in terms of I just like it. You feel me?
Yeah.
That particular thing. But of course, anything that I do in terms of business is going to head towards online, which is what we've been doing from the last few months.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's definitely pivotal if you're going to be creating a massive brand. For the fact that you have a flagship store somewhere or a big, whatever it is, it looks good. It makes it, obviously, you know that it costs a lot of money to have. And when you've got it, you're like, okay, this brand's serious. They've got a bit of money behind them. They've got a valuable presence. You can create that really emotional experience when you walk into a retail store or a cafe or whatever it is. For sure. Definitely big brand reputation from there. But in terms of like, and again, my mind might change, but I've always liked the idea of less is more. Less responsibility, less maintenance, and more output, more profit, more value. And that, again, value is a fine line. Maybe depending on what your business is, your service or your product, maybe it's more valuable to have a store. But
because you think about people that go to a cafe, not everyone is going to the cafe for food or coffee. A lot of people are going there to make the trip out to the cafe, to catch up with friends, to sit down and have a coffee and have a chat. However, you could easily Uber Eats it and it gets to your house. But there's people who would prefer to go out. That's the reason why these things will always exist. But I'm with you on the whole online thing. It just makes much more sense. And in terms of scalability, that is what is most, it's easiest to scale in concept. And online is just, look, we're only how many years or how many decades into this technology revolution, and this is where we're at. Imagine the next 10 years. If you're looking at which industries are there, of course, that's where it's at.
100%. Yeah, it's so exciting. It's just, I reckon it's so fun doing this. It's so fun setting up, like, how many different businesses, and like, let's count all of them, right? Let's count even the little side hustles. Let's count the little online drop shipping stores. How many do you think you've had so far?
Side hustles?
Yeah, all your little hustles. You've been making money. No, so and the key is you can't have been employed by someone. That's not a side hustle.
I thought you were going to say the only key is it has to be legal.
Oh well, we fucked that one up.
put it this way. 13, I'm playing soccer, North City Lions, and I tried to write an ebook about soccer. So I couldn't even give you a number.
Oh yeah,
But,
I don't know.
yeah. This is kind of just intrinsic. The same way that online store is intrinsic to you, and another reason why we're into business and why we pursue it is not necessarily to be the billionaire. And the same reason I'm pursuing fighting, same reason I want to travel. This is what I enjoy. It's like if I was to work in a full-time job, my idea would be when I retire, I want to be training jiu-jitsu and I want to do business. That is fun to me. That's exciting to me. That's interesting. So that's a big reason why. If I was given a number, let's say like maybe too many, bro. Like how I bought my first phone in high school. I went and got my mates in the gym from high school, Dinesh, Sash. These guys will laugh about this. We'd go to Coles when I would see things on sale or whatnot. I'd buy them and I'd sell them on the school bus on the way to school and on the way back from school. That's when everyone was packed and no one could go anywhere to buy things that they wanted to buy. So I would be making money. And then I bought my phone. But that's because of circumstance too. Because circumstance, you want a phone, you can't get a phone like how other people get a phone where their parents would just buy them one. What am I going to do? I could steal one. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go and buy one. So I would do that. And another interesting point is to note that the first time I started to have some money and be a little bit comfortable and not have to worry about how I'm going to acquire it and be good for like this month, next week, I quickly realized why no world champions are coming out of Beverly Hills, because you're sitting there, you're calm. There's no pressure to go out and do anything. It's like, wait, I can kick back. I don't have to do anything. I've got all this cash sitting here right now. I'm okay. That is not okay. That is not good. But it was really good that I actually got to experience that for the first time in my life, because that was a moment for me where I really clicked and I said, wow, this is why comfort destroys many, many things and growth and whatnot. Because imagine if people had grown up and they have everything right there. They never have to worry about paying this or buying that. I had friends that growing up, all their phone bills, even friends that live in apartments, nothing against it. This is great. If I have kids, I'm going to help them too. But their parents are bought them apartments. You want an apartment over here to go, there you go. You're going to go stay there now. Okay. They're paying the rent, car rego, phone bills. This was news to me when I hit uni and I saw my friends not paying their own rego and their phone bills. I was like, because all my friends were similar, you and I, this is something with stock standard. But it was a good eye-opener. It was a good eye-opener. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I like that you say that. It is definitely, it's happenstance and circumstance. It was just some of these inclinations and these ideas that we've had is really out of necessity. Like I'm the exact same, never ever given anything, struggled a lot growing up, never ever had anything paid for me, always had to go get it myself. And it really does make you do things that you wouldn't have to do normally. If you got comfort, what do you have to stress for? Just relax, kick back. No ambition now. It's all handed to you. But then you start, I started realizing the same time when I grew up in Epping, way different over there than it is here. And I'm like, hang on, this is, okay, it's the way it is here. All my friends had real nice houses, we're always renting, whatever. And then I move over here and I'm like, damn, everyone's got, wait, you don't have to pay for this? Like, what? What do you mean? You don't have to do this and that? And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Is it just me? Like, I'm like, all right, cool. That doesn't matter. Like, I'm still going to get it anyway, because you feel that sort of pressure from your friends. They got new phones. I have to get a new phone somehow. My parents are going to buy it for me. You got to do something. You're going to start selling this, whatever. Going to garage sales and trying to flip shit, whatever it was. Going on eBay trying.
But then you find that it's fun and you enjoy it, and then you feed it.
Yes.
And then now when you're here and you're okay, it's like this is now innate, and it's the pathway forward.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can teach these things, like I remember one of the best things that I felt coming through and learning like about business, going through Tiiki and stuff, and starting to realize the difference between profits and revenue and how to make money for yourself. I thought that was so pivotal. I think that's a very important skill, how to make your own money. be your own boss sort of thing. Not even just for the clout for it, but it's way more enjoyable. It's way more enjoyable, and it gives you
You're
more.
okay wherever you go.
Exactly, yeah, and you're always going to know that. You're always going to know that I'm going to be okay. I know how this skill. It's a skill to make money by yourself. And I remember when Gary Vee was doing the whole garage sale flip, and I was going through Tiiki, and we're at a good stage, and I'm like, I've got to teach this. And you did the same for your younger brother. I did it with my younger brother and sister, and we'd just go around to garage sales on the weekends, and I'd make them. One of them had Facebook Marketplace up, the other one would have eBay, and we just sift through different products. I'm like, tell me how much it's selling for. You always search for the recently sold items. And then I'm like, if we can get a good price, we teach the skill of negotiating. They say they want $10 for this, 8 for this, 2 for that, $20. Give it to me for 10 or 3. And she's like, yeah, done. And I get them to do it, get them their public speaking up, get them more confident in having the negotiation. You know what I mean? And like start understanding at a young age, you can do this. You really can.
I remember when you was that was cool. That's exactly what should be happening. That's awesome. It's like the whole thing about teach a man to fish, instead of giving him a fish. But at the same time, I will say I have so many friends at uni that are definitely well off, but they've got such a drive within them that it's almost innate. And I've spoken to them about it, and it's something that their parents had instilled within them. So I've got friends that are well off and very driven, very focused, very ambitious. And I also have friends that are growing up, not well off, and black those too, and don't really care. So it's also a matter of circumstance as well. But I wanted to say that so anyone listening didn't think it's like people out here doing whatever.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. You can definitely come from either background, because again, it's half environment and it's half your DNA and it's half your own innate thing, wherever that comes from. Sometimes people just have a fire in them, good circumstance or not, and they're going to do some real good things, which is great. It's great. Wherever you come from, as long as you have that desire, I don't care. I'd rather you have that desire though, because I can relate to you more.
100%.
When I also, before BJJ Fanatics, I never ever heard of them, and I was just I was 14 or something, and I'm like, I bet you I can make an app. Don't know how to code or anything like that. I'm like, I can make an app. And I found some sort of like custom design your own app thing, and you end up having to pay like a big lump sum and they'll do the coding for you. And I made I called it MMA Hub. I made a full library of, so you go in and it would have different martial arts. I had like 23 different martial arts, and I'd do like a brief history thing on it. And I'd be like, all training videos from this guy and this guy and this guy. And there would also be like its own location map, so you could find places to train wherever you were. There was like a chat room that you could chat about training for whatever. And I'm like, this would be a good as idea to like get people to do instructionals on it, And then I'm like, no, I can't be bothered. We're doing Tiiki, whatever. And I left it. And then like obviously now BJJ Fanatics and dynamic striking is massive. And I'm like, I thought about this when I was 14. But how many other people are listening right now and you're like, man, I had this idea and someone else did it? Well, action makes the difference. Your ideas don't count.
Troy said the idea is going to come into your head. It's now up to you to actualize it. It's not like no one gets ideas.
Exactly. We've all got good ideas. Yeah, but they don't count. They don't count.
There's a great quote where it's like, you don't want to be lying on your deathbed and imagine all around you are the ideas, dreams, desires that they're all saying, and they're saying to you, we came to you, but you never gave us life. That's stuck in my head for a while. And it's like, all right, I'm going to go through and action things. Simple.
That's a good one. It's like each idea, if you had acted on it, is going to create you a whole different journey, a whole different reality.
It's a little seed of potential, each thing. Yeah. And it's like, you're going to water it and feed it and try to see where it goes. Same thing with the fighting. It's like you walk into a gym, whatever circumstance led you there, and you're in there and that little seed is planted. And it's like, are you going to water it and commit to it? And then it just becomes a part of your life. And then you have people training up until they're 60, 70, and they're like, this is the best thing I've done, Like, how many jiu-jitsu guys on the mats from all walks of life? And imagine if they had just stopped training jiu-jitsu after the second week because it's like, I got choked out or I got real tired. It's like, you stick to it. That's another side of the whole thing as well in terms of ideas. That's the same kind of that's the same concept. Yeah.
100%. I think to summarize, if you are going to go into business and pursue an idea, something that's audacious, I hope it's audacious and I hope it's big. I hope it scares you a little bit and I hope you don't know how to do it at the start, because if you do, you're probably not going to like it. It's probably not going to turn out the way you thought. But I think the biggest key is you have to start. You have to start somewhere, even if it's small, very small scale, even if you're doing it from home, you're making it, whatever. It really doesn't matter. But the other thing is that, one, you have to start. It can't just be an idea. You can't just write about it or talk about it. You have to start. And two, you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, this hard yards, you're not going to do it. You're not going to put in the work that's required. You won't like it.
You'll stop at the first sign of some struggle. Yeah.
Yeah. So if money is your goal, find something else. Find something else to do. Okay. You have to like the product. You have to like the hustle of what you're doing. You have to be about it. You can't just talk about it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm with you on that.
We'll leave it at that. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to a bit of background about our business life. Don't think it's over. We've got ideas to come. We're not going to just talk about it, but we're going to actualize a few things in the near future. We're not done on that forefront yet.
Yeah.
But I hope you took away.
Keep your eyes on everything.
Yeah. Good chats.
That was one of the best chats. That was one of the best conversations. That was real good.
That was fun. It was fun to revisit.
That was fun.
But yeah. Anyway, guys, enjoy.
Adios.